like exploring like all these combinations like that, or like this, which is what I call the Sonic the Hedgehog lick, because it's got that. I've heard that in one of those Sonic the Hedgehog. Instead of just your baseline, kind of like pentatonic rock approach. That's about enough of that. To go from like rock or fusion or whatever into more bebop territory. And then some examples where you can connect it, So there's some ideas to throw out. I'm just kind of showing you real quick, what it sounds like with two hands. So it's very interesting. Like some of those little digital patterns you can take apart and kind of then make these little high tech lines. But one of the interesting thing that Brecker does is then take those same kind of things and start moving them up and down chromatically. That kind of stuff, and it makes those real outside lines. So you could take like just like those kind of pentatonic things. Hey everyone, so I thought today I would actually do kind of more of a beginner to intermediate, maybe some advanced things in it, kind of a lesson video, and do some talking here. But I basically wanted to take some like more traditional kind of classic-y rock type licks and show those, but also then show you how to change them so they sound more high tech or they're more interesting. And then also probably the main point of the video, just basically show a person like how to get started with more jazz sounding lines. And there's kind of a trick to that. And I don't know where most people are starting, whether or not they're starting off as blues players, etc. But anyway, we'll get into that. Yeah, let's go ahead. I might even play the violin a little bit. We'll see how that goes. So let's go ahead and pick up my guitar. I'm going to try to use magic to do it. Wow. That was crazy. All right, probably heard this a bunch of times. It's where you have the whole double stop and bend into the double stop thing. This was used on every rock record since like the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, today. So that kind of thing, right? Immediately I think of like Ace Frehley or something when or one of those guys. Anyway, so you can, take the same notes and then divide them up. And do like pentatonic patterns with it. or maybe do double notes, you know, or stretch all the way out for the something that I do occasionally is actually string skipping with that. And, you know, most of you probably would want to do hybrid picking where you're I'm kind of trying to use my fingernail as the pick in this particular instance. But, you know, same principle. You just follow the pentatonic up and stagger. Either way. I think it's good to go one way and then the other, you know. It just kind of sounds like notes are flying around a little bit more. Yeah. Then, of course, you also have the whole Eric Johnson paradigm of like playing clean pentatonics within that same framework, up and down in different combinations of 5 or 7, or just all the way up and all the way down without any note repetitions, or using note repetitions. I really like this too, by the way. I got one of these fret wraps, you know, and I'm like, why didn't I get one of these before? You know, it pretty much completely destroys the sound. I mean, mutes it, you know. And makes that kind of stuff really super clean. Let me do that slower. I'm not going to show this lick, but I just want to play it slower. Nice. And yeah, I always do that. I always like have like a high 24th fret E with the telly note pickup because it's made out of metal. You know what I mean? Anyway, so yeah, one of the benefits of either having a fret wrap or playing fingerstyle or both is like being able to, for example, just all left hand legato without having any weird you know, noises going on. So all of that kind of stuff, you know. On here anyway, right? So we got a C minor pentatonic. Just being able to play it all the way up and all the way down is kind of useful, just for muscle memory. And I'm picking with my, you know, I normally would just pick the note like this, or with my thumb. And when you're on the lower string, use your thumb, you know, and then kind of move to the other fingers as you get higher. Right. and then work on different combinations. Like another thing with the classic rock, not classic rock, but just classic rock licks. Not classic rock, but same thing, kind of whatever. Yeah. They always had that kind of thing going on. That blues influence thing happening. So studying and listening to so much fusion, obviously there's a tendency to use the same kind of language, but then elaborate on it. In that kind of capacity where it's similar, but there's a little more technique happening. So like that's one way of thinking of it. String skipping, different combinations of notes like that. But like really clean though, not is what we're aiming for. So maybe a string mute would help in that regard. I use a lot of tapping. So like maybe I'm practicing some licks like that. That's kind of ridiculous. I mean, for just playing in a song, I might throw that in every once in a while, but the technique thing for me, the two hand is not really about the speed. For that, I have to use two hands to do that kind of speed because 8 fingers is faster than 4 on one hand because you have more tendons and muscles and things pulling on things, And me being a little waif of a thing or whatever, like I gotta have every bit of benefit that I can get. So like, those would be some cascading arpeggios, which I use that formation myself. This is a little advanced. Like I just wanted to kind of like show you something in addition to the classic rock thing. How if you keep on taking it out and technique wise, it might end up where I'm at. Or which we kind of associate with like Eddie Van Halen or something, right? So that's just like taking the arpeggio shape and then adding one extra note, And then you can kind of do those little chromatic things. And what that is, right, is like me thinking of it in terms of it being like a blues scale, versus, which I might do is use that little piccato legato technique that I use to do a bunch of double notes, which is really just the same thing as the selective picking that they do with the slapping with, I just do it like a piccato. rough there. And there's different ways, obviously, to approach filling up the space. I can instead opt to be like, or right, and that's a minor 7. 3-octave minor 7th arpeggio, but I'm dividing it up. A lot of these patterns, like if you go over to my finger drumming channel, should have a link down there. It's the same kind of deal. It's playing different patterns and notes like that, but with actual notes instead of sounds. Yeah, so getting into that, the sweep picking thing too. I used to sweep pick a lot. Started playing all fingers, and I kind of developed another approach to it. And I've covered this in different videos. And a lot of this stuff is like getting your right and left hands kind of like in one formation and then shifting to another one. And I think it's the same thing with a pick. It's just kind of becomes homogenous. And then we're like, oh, I got to play everything with the same position, Maybe not, Yeah. So, those are some ways to approach that. All of the bending, stuff too. You heard that a lot on the records before. Yeah. And then every hard rock band in the 80s and 90s or something would use. Even go Jimmy Page, Eric Clapton, Jeff Beck, So, there's an interesting King Crimson lick that kind of like plays around with this formation. That's very frippish, that kind of thing. See, like you can take any of those licks and then start, expanding them out. At some point, I started experimenting with hybrid picking, and like I was thinking to myself, like, okay, this is cool, but like I want to change the notes and be more mobile with it. And a lot of that came from wanting to do play like banjo parts, because I was like, oh my god, all these notes are flying around. What if you could take that, transform it into something for rock or whatever, and that you can. Although I think a lot of players and their setup, their approach, their picking technique, and a lot of things is not suitable to doing that to achieve what you think would be the best tone. It ends up being a technique that you don't use as much because it doesn't sound as good. So, like, to See, like, this is an odd combination of notes if you have a pick. So it's like a G arpeggio from here, the 10th fret on the E string. Because you're barring all this stuff and you have this note. So, like, there's different options you have. You could do that. Or that. Or that. So there's different ways to do that, to approach any single thing, obviously, fingering wise. But I kind of look at this and think to myself, you know, when am I going to be able to use it and for what purpose? And like, so sometimes I'm like, well, I'll have some ideas ready for this two-handed thing, but I also want something in this formation. So you might not have that problem because you're approaching playing the notes the same way for the same whatever application, you know. But anyway, like, so I was thinking to myself a long time ago, I was like, well, what about holding down certain notes, you know? So you see what I'm doing there is like I'm holding down this G and I'm picking that with these two fingers on this one string, right? And then I'm just hammering with these two fingers. Okay, so what I'm doing here, again, is holding down this note on the B string, the G, and then hammering with the left hand, right? So just like da 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 da, you know. One E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a, you know, 16th notes. And you can also come up with like odd meter groupings by doing this kind of thing. But you can also flip between that and that. And that's like I'm holding the shape, right? But instead of using this, I'm kind of doing it with a bar. It just makes the muting a little bit easier, maybe. Or not. And there's like that kind of thing, right? Where you follow the arpeggio down. Kind of like doing this kind of exercise. Like that kind of thing down. So like maybe those kind of things, groups of 3, groups of 4. And if you got the technique, you know, I mean, you can kind of do that kind of thing smoothly, top to bottom, some more intricate stuff, you know. Right. And then back to the sweeps. But, you know, with a mute like this. it's kind of, it feels weird, I guess, at first, but having a mute like this allows you to do that kind of stuff where you're starting a pitch from nothing. And, having the different 3 inversions of every major and minor under your fingers. Like just being able to do that kind of thing. It's kind of useful. I know that the focusing on majors and minors is kind of lame at first, but there's like a fundamental thing with all the modes, the church modes, that just gets the patterns under your fingers, and then you start taking notes away and you can play pentatonic stuff or work on it simultaneously, maybe is best. Tonics, right? Or basically we can just basically streamlining one's technique and, using double notes and odd combinations rather than the expected, which would be more like. Something more traditional, but, making it weird, right? Yeah. I guess maybe as a final thing, I can. Before I do that, let me switch to the violin just to play something. Poof, like magic. Now I have a violin. So I was learning some stuff too, like for those looking for a violin update. I was playing this Michael Brecker tune called "It's Been Real," which is like a reel, like an Irish reel or Scottish or something, It's gonna take me a second to get into this. Anyway, I'll play that on the guitar too, but in a minute. But I just want to show you, like, it looks like that on violin, quite different on this instrument. All right, that's about enough of that. Here we go. anyway, so it's an interesting kind of a pentatonic thing. Right? So it's got like an interesting little kind of a multi-tonality type thing happening. So it's very interesting, like some of those little digital patterns you can take apart and kind of then, make these little high-tech lines. But one of the interesting thing that Brecker does is, then take those same kind of things and start moving them up and down chromatically. That kind of stuff. And it makes those real outside lines. So you could take like, just like those kind of pentatonic things. And then make all of these crazy sounding lines, using distortion or whatever you like. I just kind of have more of a jazz tone right now because I wanted to, I can just turn it on, like the distortion, but I want you to hear what I'm doing a little bit more clearly. So like we could, I guess I should just go ahead and like conclude the video with this little tidbit. This is what I was originally going to do the whole video on, but then added all this extra stuff. It's like taking the same kind of thing. Hiccups. Same kind of deal, right? Same kind of deal. And then we're going to add all the blues notes in. You can't add all of them. So, by doing that, we can start to take some of our more rock fusion type stuff and turn it into more bebop sounding lines, right? So instead of, kind of a thing, instead of just your bass line, kind of like pentatonic rock approach. Right? That sounds a little more like bebop. That now this isn't going to work if you're playing over changes, like, without changing what you're playing, obviously, but just getting some of these notes, choice ideas under your fingers, that already sounds more jazzy, and I'm not even doing anything but going straight down or straight up. And it's also because of the number of notes. So the number of notes causes you to land on a chord tone or a jazz tone, a non-chordal tone, an extension or something, in a weird part of the beat. So like 1E and and I have no idea if my microphone and the guitar are synced up because sometimes they're out of sync for some reason because they're two different sources, but right. So instead of like automatically you can kind of see what one application of this is. And you know, like that kind of thing, which also kind of works in country. You go to the bridge pickup. But we're not doing it right now. So yeah, but like in the pentatonic shape. Right? You got that whole thing happening. And that's just basically taking a lot of the notes, using the pentatonic as like the framework of the basic, you know, the note choice diagram, and then you have chromatic notes in between. All these little digital patterns, instead of going like, so whereas like a rock or blues player may be like, you know, or something, you know, like jazz players might be like, something like that. Or so you're not trying to put every note in there. It's just that there's like a cadencing that's going on with your lines, you know, like it's like, you know, that kind of thing. Yeah, anyway, a lot of different options is the point. I've kind of expanded all of these ideas out to a ridiculous end sometimes. Like, you know, like exploring like all these combinations like that. Or, you know, like this. Which is what I call the Sonic the Hedgehog lick, because it's got that, you know, I've heard that in one of those Sonic the Hedgehog, you know, but you know, you can take any combination or mode or whatever, and then use the same thing, same concept, right? Kind of work better if it's symmetrical as opposed to not, because, you know, otherwise you're, and I haven't tried to do that before I just started recording this, so, you know, that was pretty good for a first run thing. But see, that's the thing about this kind of technique that I like to have, is that you want your finger style to serve certain purposes and have certain dexterities to your tapping to pick up everything else, and the tapping to also be forefront and able to do most anything anyway. So the finger style, so for the sakes of getting a different kind of a tone, you know, than the tapping, you know, for variation. Also for being able to play certain things that just are weird or difficult to play as a tapping thing, where it's like, oh, well, why don't I just, you know, like if the melody was like we're A minor. Right, with a little, getting a bit off topic again. I just thought I would show you that, you know, it's a cool way to get back into, get into to go from like rock or fusion or whatever into more bebop territory. And then some examples where you can connect it, you know. So, you know, there's some ideas to throw out. I'm just kind of showing you real quick, you know, what it sounds like with two hands. Something along those lines. Pun not intended. Okay, I think that's probably just about enough by now. The video stuff's probably like some recommendation of some crazy junk that I've done in the last month. Probably right here. Click on that. You don't want to miss it. You definitely don't want to miss that. That's a good one. I know for a fact that that is a good one.